So yesterday was the final day of all the EFL leagues. I did the Championship, I spoke about that yesterday, and today I'm going to have a look at League 1 and 2, see how they finished up. Tell you what though, all three leagues did not disappoint, all very entertaining final days, very exciting stuff, and I'm going to take a look at how this final day panned out in both League 1 and 2 as we look forward to the playoffs. And I will be doing predictions for all three sets of playoffs in the coming weeks, so look out for that. But starting with what happened in League 2. So if you look at the bottom of League 2, it was very tight. 5 teams really all still involved in that relegation battle. Barrow, in all likelihood, were going down. They had to win, and would have to win sort of convincingly. There was like an 8-goal gap on the goal difference or something they would have needed to win, and have I think it was Newport have a really, or one of the other teams was in the mix, have a really heavy defeat. Crawley have a really heavy defeat, so it was never really going to happen. But they did look like they was going to cause Newport a problem early on, took the lead, but in the second half results were going their way anyway, but Newport was able to pull clear by getting those 2 goals and turning it around on the day, and that was enough to move them up to 20th. So they had it in their hands going into the final day, and they did end up winning their game in the end. But even if they didn't, because Harrogate also lost, they would have been all right. As for Tranmere, a draw was actually a good result for them against Grimsby. They did go behind just before half time, but they got that, what was a big goal in the second half. That was a big goal actually, just sort of because the results at the time, you know, a draw was more than enough. There was, yeah, a win would have always been enough for them, but winning Grimsby at the moment, even though they're already in that playoff place going into today, they are on such good form, and they finished the season on such strong form, and Grimsby have finished now in 7th place. They are one of the teams that have gone into the playoffs. It's a tough game for Tranmere, but they was in one of the better positions out of all the teams in the bottom sort of 5, so I always thought they would be all right, and a draw realistically probably would have been enough, but there was a world where it might not have been. So, but they managed to end in 21st as well. And of course Crawley living nervously, but good result actually, 0-0 against Salford. Bear in mind Salford had to win to have a chance of going up automatically. It was actually a decent result considering their form's been quite poor as of late, Crawley, but they've managed to just about survive. They ended up in 22nd, only a point ahead of the relegation zone, but they would have needed Harrogate would have needed to win to overtake them. And as for Harrogate, they ended up losing to Barnet. I did wonder, could there maybe be a twist in that bottom set of teams, because I wondered if maybe that would be Harrogate getting out of it. I did wonder if they'd beat a Barnet side who, although they've been on brilliant form as of late and they finished the season now on 5 straight wins, I did wonder, with them being playoffs being impossible for them, I did wonder if Harrogate would do it. But Barnet shown up again and got another win. They did equalise Harrogate. They looked like they was going to make it interesting for a lot of the game. For a while it was level, and there was a long time where a goal for Harrogate would have moved them out of it, would have moved them above Crawley, and even when Newport were losing as well, could have moved them above them. You know, it was all happening, but in the end Barnet ended up winning the game. And speaking of Barnet, very unlucky for them. They're going to the final day 3 points off the playoffs, but because the 2 above them, Swindon and Chesterfield, were playing each other, unable to get in even with a win. So very unfortunate. One more result, if they had had one more point anywhere in the season, they would have been in the picture. But certainly looking strong going into next season, bearing in mind this is their first season after coming back up to the Football League. Such a strong finish to the season. Didn't get off to the best of starts, but really got going. Just kept getting better and better as the season went on, and ended a point outside the playoffs, so agonisingly close. And to not be in that picture at the final playoff picture on the final day, so unlucky. But certainly a very strong finish to the season. I always knew that would be a tough game for Harrogate, but the 2 relegated to the National League in the end were Barrow and Harrogate. Interestingly enough, these 2 are promoted in the same season, in 2019-20 season. They're both promoted, and they've both been in League 2 since then, and they've both been relegated in the same year as well, both after a 6-year stay. So that's interesting, the fact they both come up in the same year, then for the first time, then both went down. But yeah, as for the top of the table, that's playoff places is a shootout. Swindon just behind Chesterfield. What Swindon would have needed, anything less than a win at home to Chesterfield would have put them, it would have mean they missed out, and that's what happened in the end. And obviously because they lost, Barnet ended up leapfrogging them, but Swindon did still have a chance of them playing Chesterfield going into the final day in 8th, facing Chesterfield in 7th. They could have still have done it, and the 4-0 defeat they had last week to Grimsby, very, very damaging, and that was a bit of a shootout for a playoff place as well, and that was a very damaging result for Swindon. That was the day it went wrong, because up to that point it had looked like they would be in the playoffs, and they were one of the favourites from the start of the season. Most people thought they'd be in the playoffs, particularly being managed by Ian Holloway, such a good manager for this level. But and for most of the season, they was right in there, right in the thick of it. Looked like it would at least be playoffs, maybe even more at some stages, and even in the final weeks of the season, they're still in the conversation for the top 3, especially when they got that draw with Cambridge around Easter sort of time. But no, form just went right off in the final couple of weeks. It just went wrong right at the end. So it'd be a shame for them, really, especially seeing as they still technically had it in their hands yesterday. A win would have done it for them, and I was wondering if could that be something that happens. Could they nick it at home, particularly with the fixtures like I say with Chesterfield being at home, but didn't happen in the end. Very impressive win from Chesterfield. They go into the playoffs as well, actually on an unbeaten run as well, and there was a time a little while ago where they wasn't really in the playoff pitch, Chesterfield, and the form wasn't great, but they've really recovered it in the final weeks of the season and hit the playoffs in the big unbeaten run. They're on good form. As for the title race, Bromley in the end were convincing against Walsall, 3-1 win, and they was able to take the title off of MK Dons, who they needed to slip up in the end, and won that by a point in the end. Both of those two really close. For a lot of the time Bromley were really far clear, but MK Dons did get some ground back on them in the end, and they actually went into the final day top, like I said, MK Dons, but drew at Fleetwood, so didn't have enough to win the league. But impressive season for both of them, but Bromley decide in the end that leave with the title, and they'll be pleased with that, because overall they've been dominant over the course of the season in this league, Bromley. But both of them in League One next season. Now the final place though ended up going to Cambridge at the end, but it wasn't as straightforward and as comfortable as they would have hoped. Playing a Crew side that, although they pushed for the playoffs, wasn't in the playoff picture in the final day, had nothing to play for. On paper, looks easy for Cambridge, especially with the form they've been on in the closing stages of the season when they've really gotten going. But doesn't always go like that, and it wasn't. They had a 0-0, and also Salford will be kicking themselves because they had a 0-0 and ended in 4th in the end. A winning goal for them against Crawley would have done it, because Cambridge obviously didn't win. Obviously Notts County only drew with a Bristol Rovers side that finished the season really strong. Notts County for a while were really in control of the sort of top 3 race, but forms, they've not finished the season in particularly great form, but they stayed in the pitch sort of final day of the win last weekend. But ultimately in the end, even if they had won yesterday, it wouldn't have done them any good really, because of the goal difference. They would have needed Cambridge to lose. But I feel like Salford would be kicking themselves, seeing as Cambridge did drop points, and that felt like something that could happen realistically, and maybe Cambridge got away with it a bit overall the course of the season, particularly with their performances in the second half of the season, where they've really gotten going. They deserve it, but are living a bit dangerously yesterday. So Salford go into the playoffs, and the playoff matchups we see Salford versus Grimsby and Notts County versus Chesterfield. So interesting matches there to look forward to, and final day was entertaining as well. As for League One, the relegation battle involved 2 teams there. Quite a few of them already relegated in that league, but it did go down to the final day with Exter, who are at home to Bradford, and Leyton Orient, who are home to Bolton. If Exter did win, and Orient didn't win, then they would have survived Exeter, but that didn't happen. Bradford convincing for most of the game. They, like I say, scored in the first half, then ended up getting another in the second half. They did pull one back. Exeter, but too little too late, seeing as they needed to win. Orient as well were winning at times in their game as well. Burton was able to hit back twice, and the game obviously finished 2-2 in the end. So if Exeter did pull off like some remarkable late turnaround, obviously Orient would have gone down, but it always looked like Orient was in control. There was never a moment where they swapped positions. It was always Orient who was out of the relegation zone, and ended up being a bit less nervy than I think they maybe would have expected. I did wonder if Exeter would maybe even do it, but maybe if you know, they'd swap positions quite a bit, but they didn't. Exter, well, Bradford, seeing as they had to get something from the game to guarantee a playoff place, then you know, it's not surprising really that the better team won over the course of 90 minutes. But final day, sometimes strange things does happen. But Exeter have gone down, and relief for Leyton Orient, who finished the season on a really bad run of form and a massive drop off from last season. Last season they made it to the playoff final, very nearly made it into the championship, but that's what can happen in these leagues. That's how quickly it can change season to season. But Orient survive on the final day narrowly. Obviously Lincoln, I do want to mention Lincoln really quick. They have obviously won the league, 103-point season. What a season they've had, incredible season, and congratulations to them. They've absolutely walked this league. They finished absolutely miles ahead of third and fourth, ended up finishing a long way off of Cardiff as well, who finished second, and they were convincing for second place as well. So again, congratulations to Cardiff as well, actually, because promotion straight back to the championship after relegation is very, very tough. Quite often you see teams not be able to do it, and Cardiff were able to do it. So yeah, impressive from them, especially seeing as the other two that come down, Plymouth and Luton, although they very nearly made it into the playoffs, both of them you know, only just missed out and finished the season strong. Neither of them will be able to do it, so only the Cardiff are the only team that have come back up out of the relegated teams. So yeah, fair play to them. Not an easy thing to do at all. They've done a very good job this season, actually. But obviously they did lose yesterday to Mansfield. Now I think we should talk about Mansfield as well. Nigel Clough's done brilliant with this team. They're 11 points better off this season than they were last. Got top half finish in the end. Very, very impressive season. I think it's the best they've had, I think, in 39 years, I think it was. And they've been brilliant. They finished the season on such strong form as well. And the 5-4 win against Cardiff yesterday on the final day was quite spectacular as well. So yeah, and Lincoln obviously ended with their win as well. Got the win against Port Vale, already relegated. But Lincoln, very impressive there as well. Got their 103-point season. Very impressive. The final playoff place, so, is what I'd like to talk about. Obviously there was, you know, the three that were pretty much already in there: Stockport, Bolton, Bradford. They had to win just to guarantee it. And well, we see Stockport did win 3-1 at Barnsley, guaranteed it. Third place finish for them. Fourth place for Bradford, winning at Exter. And then we see Bolton. Well, Bolton, I think Bolton were in there anyway, but they needed to. They wanted to finish strong. They played well in that game against Luton, but Luton did obviously take the lead with the penalty, but Bolton brought it back. They went into the break 2-1 up, but in that second half they refused to give up. They refused to sit down, especially with the Stevenge game still level. Right up until the end, they wanted to get that win, Luton, because if Stevenge slipped up, it would have been them that got in there if they had won. And they got the last minute winner, and it all went a bit mad at the end. It was chopping and changing all over the place. For that final playoff place, there was a moment where it looked like Luton had done it, but there was also a moment where Plymouth looked like they had done it, and they needed both the two above them to drop points, and they looked guaranteed to win their game. Surely Northampton were on a 10-game losing streak and already from bottom, and they was relegated weeks ago, but they went 2-0 up Northampton. This is what can happen, but Plymouth did eventually get it back, won the game 3-2, and there was a moment where it looked like they were going to do it because the other two weren't showing up in their games. But ultimately in the end, despite both of them two winning, Plymouth and Luton and finishing the season very strong, what ended up happening was Stevenge, who went into the final day sixth, ended sixth because they got a last minute winner against Wigan, and incredible scenes there, and a club that very much deserves it, Stevenge. They ended in the playoffs in the end, so all went a bit crazy. But as for the League One playoffs, we see Stevenge versus Stockport and Bolton versus Bradford. So yeah, interesting matches there. Looking forward to seeing how it goes. But yeah, good final days, and looking forward to the playoffs.